Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features X-Men Volume 2, number 49, cover dated February 1996. And this is a very colourful, eye-catching cover, penciled by Jeff Matsuda and inked by Dan Panosian. And it's interesting to see at this point in time artists who had, well, in the case of Dan Panosian, he got a start at Marvel, but then went over to Image to work with Rob Liefeld. Jeff Matsuda got his start with Rob Liefeld's Extreme Studios as well. And then to see them coming back to Marvel in the mid-90s after doing what one might call more of an apprenticeship, especially in the case of Jeff Matsuda at Image, and then coming back to Marvel as a fully formed artist. Intriguing to see that at this point in time of the comics industry, the mid-90s. So the cover caption, it's an all-out battle when Bishop goes wild. Bishop has been having troubles, psychological troubles, since his return from the Age of Apocalypse. And this woman that he's battling on the cover, her identity will be revealed in the issue within. And interesting too, of course, that Jeff Matsuda and Dan Panosian are the interior guest artists as well. So Andy Kubert is working away on the double-sized issue number 50 at this point. So the story opens at Harry's Hideaway bar in Salem Center, Westchester, upstate New York. Pamela Greenwood thought the night was over. She's the waitress at Harry's Hideaway, and she first appeared in Uncanny X-Men 299, and she's appeared again in the previous issue to this one, number 48. So what's going on here? How come the bar is being destroyed around her? The title of the story is Eyes of a New York Woman, and the creative team, Scott Lobdell plot. So Fabian Nicieza is gone. His last issue on Adjectiveless X-Men was number 45. He still hasn't had a permanent replacement, but his permanent replacement will be Mark Waid, who is providing the dialogue, the words, the script here for the dialogue and narrative captions. Jeff Matsuda, guest penciler, Dan Panosian, guest inker. Kevin Summers on colours, Malibu's hues, the digital separations of those colours, Richard Starkings and Comicraft on the digital lettering. Let's continue with the story. So we get a nice double page spread here, nice anchor images of Bishop in his new post-Age of Apocalypse costume. Now the thing about this costume is obviously it's a reconfiguration of the one that was designed for him by Will Portacio originally for his first appearance in Uncanny X-Men 282. But there are aspects of this new costume that really don't make sense. First and foremost, of the aspects that don't make any sense are these knee pads. I don't get what these elements of the knee pads are for, what their practicality is. They just seem to be a designy, quote-unquote, cool feature of the new costume. You can see them there as well, but they're pretty strange, and I don't know that I like them very much. And of course, these big boots with these big soles to them as well, very much a feature of art inspired by the likes of Joe Madureira at this point in time. And what I note in Jeff Matsuda's style here is there is an Art Adams influence. It's not especially evident on these pages, but it'll be evident on subsequent pages. What we're getting here, in my view, is a blend of Art Adams influence and Joe Madureira influence as well for Jeff Matsuda's style here. And this is a much more concretized style than the one he started off with at Image Comics. So he's really come into his own as an artist, completed his apprenticeship at Image, and now is getting some nice gigs at Marvel. This guest issue, of course, on one of Marvel's top-selling comics. So Bishop here appears to be deranged. He thinks that the woman has been spying on him and wants to know the truth from her, and she protests that she doesn't know what he's talking about. He exclaims, "Liar," and then he rushes at her with his fists clenched and energy flying towards her and smashing up more glass in the bar as well. So this is pretty overwrought stuff for one little bar waitress. I was a member of the XSC long enough to recognize surveillance, he says. Confess. So Bishop really losing it. Or does he have an intuition that has put him onto something that might be the case? Well, we got to continue with the story. Now, who bounds in to Harry's hideaway to grab Bishop except for the Beast? And he's using an image inducer in order to appear human. And he says to Bishop here, cease and desist. We embarked on this nocturnal excursion in order to make conversation with a fragile little barkeep flower, not to watch you mistake flirtation for espionage. Believe me, women pine not for tall, dark and psychotic type. Good Lord, man, what's wrong with you? And indeed the reader would be asking that at this point too, except we know that he has been discombobulated badly by his broken memories of the Age of Apocalypse, the 20 years he spent in that reality. And you can see more on this page the Art Adams influence with this kind of three-quarter profile upshot, but also the way the Beast's face is drawn there in his humanoid form. And very interesting too to me is that Dan Panosian's inking style has also developed in the period since he was the inker on issues of like Mark Pacella on X-Force back in 1992, and his inking style now evokes for me more of an influence by Terry Austin, in fact. So that's what's even amplifying the Art Adams elements and aspects of this art style for me, because really what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing an evocation of those late 80s art jobs where Art Adams was inked by Terry Austin, and I think that that's deliberate on the part of Matsuda and Panosian as well. They would have been fans of that particular penciler inker collaboration. By the way, I can't pass by this particular advertisement for the Fantastic Four. That's a great shot of the Thing there by Paul Ryan. Really nice stuff. And yeah, I don't know that it would have made me buy the title at the time because I wasn't buying it at the time, but that is a nice ad, a nicely designed advertisement. So back to the story. Bishop manages to fling Beast off his back and over the bar counter. Pam there is still sheltering from the breaking glass, and Beast goes unconscious. And now Bishop finally asks himself, what's happening to me? So Pam bravely here gets up and says, listen, whatever it is, it's a mutant thing, right? Please don't hurt me. Look, Bishop, I'm sorry if I did anything to upset you, to set you off. If you want to talk about what's on your mind. So that seems like a very sincere and brave offer. And then we get these captions here concerning Bishop. Confusion is a concept alien to Bishop, though he has worn weapons since he was a boy. Because remember, he comes from 80 years in the future, a dystopian future. His instincts have always been his best sidearm. He lives by them. He's never had any reason not to believe in them completely, even blindly. He knows there is something odd about this woman. Often he has seen her here, found her strangely intriguing, strangely familiar. But given his recent state of mind, was it something truly predatory he saw in her eyes, or simply a reflection of the nightmares that plague him? So this is the confusion in the opening part of the story. And the woman there is suggesting that maybe if they got to know each other, and then somebody says back off. Who could it be? Well, there's been some disturbance in Harry's hideaway. So there is a cop here who is telling Bishop, and this is kind of ironic because of course Bishop in the dystopian future where he comes from is the law. He says stop in the name of the law. Bishop lashes out at him instinctively with an energy blast, puts the cop down unconscious. The Beast here is unconscious as well, and Pam here helps Bishop from the bar. She says to him, you look ready to collapse. I can't just leave you to the cops. Let's get you out of here. Wait, she says, was there somebody else you were talking to before? I couldn't see in all the ruckus. Whatever, guess not, let's go. So the Beast is left there behind the counter. So is she a good Samaritan? A waitress, a bar waitress with a heart of gold? Or what about Bishop's instincts? Now the scene switches interestingly here to the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, which is now out in Massachusetts. It's Emma Frost's former Massachusetts Academy. where she trained the Hellions. And here it has become the headquarters, the training school for Generation X. And Banshee is arriving back from a vacation, and he thinks to himself here, I swear sometimes I think I can't leave my students alone for 5 minutes, because he sees all these fireworks, or what appear to be fireworks, around the school building. This is a great shot, by the way. I'm really impressed with this one. This kind of top-down angle on Banshee as he's alighting, and even look at the cast shadow on the side of the roof of the Massachusetts Academy. And then he's calling out for Emma Frost, Jubilee, anyone, are you under attack or what? And then he sees Gateway out on the lawn. So Gateway's attached himself to Generation X, and Banshee asks him, what are you doing? For once in your life, open your mouth and answer me, because Gateway in the Prime reality, unlike in the Age of Apocalypse reality, does not speak, is generally mute. And who has come out to investigate what's going on with Gateway except for M and Chamber, aka Jonathan Starsmore? And what happens here is that Starsmore is pulled into Gateway's teleportation portal, and both he and Gateway disappear. So Banshee asks Monet for help, a little help here. Were you able to psi-read anything out of Gateway's mind before his portal vanished them both? One word, Mr. Cassidy, says M, Onslaught. So again, we're getting more run up to the Onslaught story event. And then back at Harry's hideaway, we've got Hank coming to. Remember, he's got the image inducer still operating. And it's funny here as he comes to that he is dreaming of accepting a Nobel Prize for Science and thanking his wife, Terry Hatcher. So a very mid-90s reference there, because of course at that point Terry Hatcher was starring in the mid-90s Superman series. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Lois and Clark, wasn't it? That was the name of it, I think. And here we have the police, but they're all tooled up. Some kind of SWAT team has arrived, and the image inducer goes off. And here we get a look at Beast in his bestial form. And he looks rather like Dark Beast, his Age of Apocalypse alternate version of himself. And he says now, come now, Constable, even without the benefit of an image inducer, do I look like a suspicious type to you? He looks like a frightening type there. Elsewhere, Bishop has been taken to the apartment of the waitress. And I like this little detail of the sleeping kitten on Bishop's chest there. The waitress pulls the kitten off, gives it a kiss. That's a nice drawing there by Matsuda. A nice inking too, rendering the fur of the cat by Panosian. Some nice work on this kind of like quiet page until the final panel where Bishop wakes up and of course he pulls a gun on the waitress. And we're wondering all the time what can be going on here, and whether there is anything at all underhand going on with the waitress, and it doesn't seem to be the case so far. So Bishop just really seems completely deranged, saying to her, I look at you and I doubt, because I want to trust you, and every instinct I have tells me not to, tells me to blow you to kingdom come, because for the first time in my life I can no longer rely on my instinct. Get up, girl, he tells her. So he's been really tough on this woman, but his instincts told him to be tough on her. And the question is he right to listen to his instincts or to ignore them? What's going on with him? This is a nice top-down angle here on the apartment. Some nice work there by Matsuda. And then we have a switch of scene to the Dark Beast's lair. So we've got some details of the Dark Beast that differentiate him from Prime Reality Beast, such as these pieces of jewelry that he's wearing, these spikes around his shoulder, and this type of trousers that he's wearing as well, this metallic trousers. So he's visually distinctive and distinguishable from the Prime Reality Beast, and here he is in his lair. And look, in the previous issue he had eyes on Harry's bar somehow, and here he's got eyes on Bishop in Pamela, the bar waitress's apartment. So how so? And so she says to Bishop, "My name is Pamela. Good. Cut back on the tears though, child. They're affecting the clarity of the broadcast. Keep scanning. Sorry, boss." So is this confirmation enough? So now it seems like there's a big twist. Like Bishop should have trusted his instincts, that there's something off with Pamela, that she is in fact an agent of the Dark Beast. So he continues and he says, absolutely, clearly this Bishop, whether he realizes it or not, knows far too much about the world I myself hail from. How this can be, I haven't even a guess, which, as you can imagine, kills me. And then he continues with his own ruminations and conjectures. He's got a holographic image of Bishop's brain. I've scraped it a time or two before, he says. How better to glean from your subconscious the image of your ideal woman, one you might trust, and plant her somewhere clever as a spy. So that explains why way back in Uncanny X-Men 299, when Bishop first saw Pam in Harry's hideaway, that he felt to himself that there was something familiar about her. So we have the explanation of that now. And here we also see that over in X Factor 119, Dark Beast has abducted Havoc and is working on altering Havoc in the Prime reality. Should Bishop finally remember me to his friends first? But hold on, sorry, here's what he's up to. He says that Bishop is too risky to keep around. Plans are proceeding apace, plans that include, among other things, the alteration of the mutant Havoc. And he doesn't want to give Bishop a chance to remember anything about Dark Beast, anything about Sugar Man, anything about the Age of Apocalypse reality, which would interfere with his plans. So he communicates to Pam that it's time to kill Bishop now. So then we pick up with Beast, our Prime reality Beast, and he's following a trail that Bishop left, a scent trail, and suddenly he sees Bishop crashing out an apartment window. That's a nice image there. Good stuff from Matsuda on the art. Good use of perspective as well. It's a very interesting kind of fisheye perspective in this particular panel there. Interesting work from him. He's really come on in leaps and bounds. Speaking of which, we have the Beast leaping and bounding to catch Bishop, and then he looks up to the apartment window that Bishop crashed out of, and there's Pam, but suddenly she shapeshifts into a killer assassin. And Bishop here, he gets his confirmation. I knew it. Okay, so he's not that crazy. And meanwhile, we have Dark Beast online to Sugar Man, and Sugar Man wants to know whether Bishop is dead, what's going on, and suddenly Dark Beast sees something he wasn't expecting. I'll call you back, he says, and cuts the line to Sugar Man. So what is it that has stopped him in his tracks? Now this is kind of confusing to look at here. So obviously we have the digital coloring effects going on here. So we have Dark Beast looking at his computer screen. He's getting visual feed from from Pam, his agent, and he says to himself, well, oh my bells and whistles rather than stars and garters. He looks just like you, boss. What does that mean? It means, ho ho, it means I've been a blind fool, but an adaptive fool, Fatale, so that's her name. Abort the mission, stat. And that's interesting. How can it be that Dark Beast has been in the Prime reality for 20 years, has had Pam as an agent there in Harry's hideaway, and knows nothing about his Prime reality alternate Beast, our Beast? How can that be when the Beast was famously a member of the Avengers? It doesn't make any sense. So that's a fairly big continuity snafu, in my opinion. Can you come up with any no prize answer for that one? let's continue with the end of the story. So Fatale jumps out the window. Fatale from Femme Fatale jumps out the window, has some kind of weapon here that she's blasting away at both Beast and Bishop. Looks like the lads here were under a deadline pressure. A little less detail on this particular page. Looks like maybe they're getting under that deadline pressure and have to get this thing to the printers. And what happens is the story wraps up fairly smartly. Fatale ruptures a gas main and a power line together, and that explodes, so that seems to be the end of her. Beast makes an understatement here, that hurt. Bishop simply says, good. So now we're on the last couple of pages. The cat survived, the kitten survived, so that's nice. And Bishop feels vindicated. Guess I'm not that crazy after all. But Beast here is thinking, how insane was our mystery assassin to target one of the X-Men? Better question. If she indeed was a spy, then who was she spying for? And then this is a nice little mirror image here where the body language of Beast is reflected in that of Dark Beast as he's musing here on his counterpart in the Prime Reality, and obviously developing some new plan. And what will he do next? So what will he do next? Well, he starts tapping away at his computer and comes up with a file about a gene blending program and a target. And the target is Dr. Henry McCoy. So what's he up to? Next month, in our double-sized 50th issue, the threat of Onslaught. So that was teased with the couple of pages regarding Banshee in Massachusetts and whatever it was that Gateway was up to with Jonathan Starsmore, aka Chamber. So I think that this was a pretty effective, guest issue by Jeff Matsuda and Dan Panosian. I'm pretty impressed with their art on this issue. It's good stuff by both of them. They're really coming into their own. In particular, Matsuda. Good stuff by him. And now, there's no letters page in this issue, but there is one of these statements of ownership where we get the print runs and the sales on comics at this time. So the print run for the actual single issue nearest to filing date was 638,900. But here is a very troubling statistic, which is the returns, copies not distributed, but also return from newsagents, because copies not sold by newsagents were returnable. They were not direct sales. Direct sales copies couldn't be returned even if they didn't sell. Average number of copies each issue during preceding 12 months, 310,861. Average actual number of single issue nearest filing date, a little less than that, 243,000. But that's not good. So that means the number that have sold, total distribution, that's like of sales, is around 394,000, the issue closest to filing date. So just under 400,000. So sales are dropping. Sales are dropping on X-Men. And X-Men is one of the best-selling titles of the industry. The industry crash is coming fast, and also Marvel's bankruptcy is only a couple of years in the future. So there you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on X-Men number 49. If you liked my review, please like the video on YouTube. It really does help the channel. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.